So I'm going to teach you a move, an exercise to practice that bounce into the next move. And so I think we'll take it from the low sweep, step behind, bounce. And so the idea of the bounce is that you're going to use the momentum of that bounce into the next movement. So you need to be, it's not like pushing down in the ground and stopping the action. Just let it bounce and it's going to come back. And as it comes back up, just slide up with the staff. So just practice this a little bit to get the feeling of it. A lot of people try to control the staff too much with their hand manipulation rather than letting the stick, the staff, just kind of move on its own. Really, this is like think of this Tai Chi staff form not as like slow Tai Chi, but as actually Toy Show, where you're kind of like being soft in your control of the staff and you're just kind of working with the way the staff moves and sticking with it. So as the staff is moving through space, all this action that you're doing on the sliding and the pivot point gripping is very, very relaxed. So you're kind of working with the flow of the stick and your timing is coordinated. At some point, that sliding action becomes fairly subconscious. But in the beginning, you have to consciously figure out where to slide, grab the pivot point, then the left hand ends up being, look how open my fingers are when I do the slide. And then let it bounce, let it bounce up to the pivot point that you're grabbing, and then relax the right hand. So watch my overhead hand. You see, as a demonstration, I'm totally relaxing the fingers and using just the web of the hand to manipulate the staff. That's how loose you should be. The staff almost can travel through space and you're just kind of like sticking with it, like toy show, sticking hands or pushing hands. So from the step behind, the bounce, overhead, and step. So looking forward this way, it's like the bounce. I'll do it this way. You see the bounce, come up, pivot point is where you grab. The hand slides through like an uppercut as you turn around. Now you're coming overhead, right? So it ends up uppercut, overhead, uppercut, overhead. And as it strikes the ground, the opposite foot steps forward. Right foot forward, left foot forward. Right foot forward, left foot forward. So again, from the step behind, overhead, so now in this section, we're going to practice the hop. So again, in form, it looks like this. So as soon as that staff does the right bounce off the ground, you're going to lift everything up and flip the stick over, flip the staff over. So again, we're really using the momentum of the staff bouncing to project the power for the movement. So again, from the right bounce, left bounce, again, I can't emphasize how much the weight of the staff moving through space is your friend. And all you're doing is manipulating the momentum that you've generated from one move to another and using that for the ending of the strike. And so all you're doing again is dancing with the staff. So again, being this is the running section, that's the total emphasis of this section here, how to move with the staff. So bounce on the ground, bounce on the ground, hop. So you want to time your hop to finish at exactly the same time that the staff ends up in this horizontal position. Now, this is a strike that you're not familiar with. Um, so as you're uh, doing the overhead turn here, like here, as you do the hop, you're gonna take the staff and come over. So now we can just work on this individually. So from here, let's try here, slide, overhead strike, slide. So right here, you can't push the staff back to get the right angle for the pivot point. So it could be like this. So here you can, because you can pull this back to where you have the pivot point and come overhead. But here, you're gonna have to go low and come up and then the uppercut and ending up against the arm like all the other stop strikes. Okay. Here you can pull back, strike overhead. Here you have to go down, up, and then here. So this all has to be done quickly. And this is where I was saying that the timing of your sliding will have to become subconscious and intuitive in order for you to kind of flow with the staff, yet keep the long end out. So it's not something you can kind of think too much consciously about. Right now, just do it on the right arm because you could practice on the left arm later on, but for the form, it's only being done on the right arm for this section of the form. So these movements, when I break it down like this, is something that you can definitely practice outside of practicing the form. And again, in doing form practice, it's really good to learn how to individualize the movements that you need to work on or the ones that you're learning outside of the form. When you go do your practice, a lot of us get into the habit of just rote training, of just doing the entire form at one time and then repeat the entire form. But you need to be able to break it up, just like in teaching, I have to break it up in order to teach this student the particular moves. You need to be able to break up your form so you can work on the moves that you need to work on. And by doing only a few moves at a time, you can really learn about those moves much better. If you go out and just do your dalu, your fixed form, one time, you've only gone through each movement one time. But I always encourage people to practice so that they go out and they're going to work on one or two or three moves within the form over and over and over. Now you practice that particular movement many times, and you can kind of like really kind of learn about them and kind of like smooth them out or whatever you need to do, and learning between the difference between flow and static stances or power output, fudging. These are things that you need to work on individually. So again, these little tidbits of how to practice these little sections are something that is kind of inherent to how you can train. So then we take it from the bounce to the hop. So as soon as this one comes overhead and bounces, left foot forward, as soon as it bounces on the ground, you kind of like come up with that bounce into with the staff right there. to kind of cue the moment that it needs to. I'm kind of letting the stick, the staff, bounce with my. If I control it with this hand here, I actually impede the bounce of the staff. So the looser I have this hand, when I'm coming over the door, I can use that almost let go of the staff at that point to turn it. So if you want to practice this statically without movement, it's fine. Come over, come over. Again, this is a good way to learn, just practice that little individual part of the movement that you need to practice. Learn how to break it up. Okay, so trying to learn it all at once is pretty difficult. So you have to have a way of breaking up the movement so you can practice just those little specific points that need to be practiced. So in this bounce, the left hand being loose, and then the slide into the overhead strike. Okay, left hand loose, bounce, flip that staff over into the overhead strike into this position. Loose. Here I'm kind of pulling the staff back in this motion like that. I'm doing that because I want to get the slide to this position as I come over for the overhead strike, but also I want to take that bounce into taking that bounce here and kind of flipping it over like that. Okay, so from the bounce, as soon as you do all those movements, now in timing with the overhead strike, you're going to hop into a big step as soon as this staff comes to horizontal position. If you watch the video on the slow motion Tai Chi staff that I did, you'll be able to see that exact timing where I kind of bounce right into that step. So again, from the bounce, step. And from here, you do the unwind. Okay, remember that exercise that we just worked on? Low, high pivot point, uppercut. Pull back, overhead strike. Low, high pivot point, strike. So those are like two different, you have to like do those two different ways of manipulating that slide. It's kind of like little pointers I'm giving you. You can't do the slide the same way in the overhead because here you don't have room to slide back. So you have to pull down first, grab up, and then do the slide from underneath. Here you can pull back and then overhead. Here you have to go down, up, and then slide. Pull back. This is a right sliding action. But here, down, up, left sliding action. Like that. So taking it all together, it looks like from the step behind bounce, strike, here. So we end in this position for this lesson here. In doing these lessons, I think I'm just doing a lot of taping, and then I get to splice it together the best I can to get the best lesson. So trying to teach continuously and kind of figure out where to stop and start is one of the difficulties in doing these instructional videos. So if it kind of appears kind of broken up, or kind of all of a sudden over here and then over there, kind of beg your forgiveness on that. But it's just the way they have to do this lesson. Um, Normally, if you're teaching a student, you have the student right there and you get the feedback right here. But trying to teach 100 people through one uh, portal, the internet, is much more difficult. So thank you.